Uncle, I know you must have mixed feelings about seeing me, but I want you to know I am so sorry, Uncle. I am so sorry and ashamed of what I did. I don't know how I can ever make it up to you, but If you guys have ever seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, then you know that that line, or that quote, is from one of the best scenes ever written. Zuko's character arc is my favorite character arc, basically ever. And I know I'm not alone in that. His redemption arc is so well done that it just leaves the reader full of emotion and loving both Zuko and Uncle Iroh. The moment Zuko walks into that tent and is so humble in front of his uncle, and then the moment that Uncle Iroh doesn't even need to forgive Zuko because he's never been angry with him, just sad that he was choosing a way that wasn't going to be the right way, and he's never had anger or resentment for Zuko, and Zuko has changed so much since he last saw his uncle. That moment, it makes me cry every time. Every time I watch the series, which is a lot. Today I'm reviewing the book Creating Character Arcs by K.M. Weiland. This is actually the first book that I read after reading Save the Cat, and Save the Cat was kind of my wow, my writing is changed forever craft book. I think if I had read it first I would have liked it a lot more, but because I read Save the Cat first, some of it did feel repetitive. But I ended up really liking Creating Character Arcs, and so I wanted to share it here and recommend it to anyone who is interested in learning more about how character arc and plot go together and how to weave their character arc throughout their book. I think this book is meant to be read after her book on story structure. I haven't actually read that book. I did read Save the Cat though, so I was familiar with the basic 3-act structure. And while the terminology is different, so things like, plot point 1 instead of catalyst, I was able to make the parallels between the two terms, and it worked for me. I think that if you are familiar with the basics of the 3-act structure and the way that it breaks down, that it doesn't really matter if you use the same story structure that she does. If you're not familiar with the story structure, the basics of story structure, then it will probably be a little bit harder to follow because she does break each different type of character arc down into the different acts, and then she breaks each of those down into the different plot points. So you'll want to be familiar with the different plot points within the 3-act structure before reading this book. I actually think that it goes really well with Save the Cat Writes a Novel, so if you're looking for more after Save the Cat Writes a Novel, I think this is a really good one. Because while Save the Cat does start off with the theme, and while the author does talk about character arc all throughout, it is a little more implicit and not quite as obvious, where in this book it is very explicit the way that plot and character arc are tied together, and I think that that is an important thing to understand as a writer. K.M. Weiland actually says in the book, the major plot points all revolve around the character's actions and reactions. The character drives the plot, and the plot molds the character arc. Once you understand how character, plot, and theme all work together, chances are good that if you get one of them right, you will get all of them right, which will only increase how good your writing is. She also talks in her book about how if you don't understand how they work together, and you nail one, but you miss one or some of the others, like if you nail plot but you don't quite get character arc, then your book's just going to fall short of its potential. Where if you understand how they work together, then you can, like she said, if you understand how they work together, then if you get one right, then they're all going to cohesively work together and just make your book that much better. This book breaks down positive, flat, and negative character arcs. And it's actually one of the few books that I've seen that really delves into flat and negative character arcs, and it actually breaks negative character arcs into 3 different types of negative character arcs as well, which is, I think, really useful. And then she breaks each character arc down into the 3 acts and delves into each plot point and what you want to be doing in those plot points in order to deliver on the character arc. And she also compares, she starts with positive character arcs, and so then as she talks about flat and negative character arcs, she's able to compare the similarities and differences between the 3 different character arcs, which can also be useful depending on what you're writing. She also has a section talking about books that don't have a character arc, which I thought was really nice too. She uses a lot of examples. They are movie examples, but they're still really great examples, and the way that she presents them is really useful. She has, after each section that she talks about, she has short little examples that she uses where you can read them really quickly for different books. She'll have like 5 or 6 different, not books, movies that she uses as examples, like Thor and Cars, and she breaks that down really quickly and shows you kind of in one line what she's talking about. But then at the end of each section she also has longer, a couple different movies that she breaks down, and you can read through them to get a more in-depth example if you're wanting more. And then at the end of each section she also has questions that you can use while writing in your own book. One thing she talks about that is really important to understand for character arc and plot, but that I haven't really seen talked about in a lot of other books, and I haven't read tons of them, but just the books that I've read, I haven't seen anyone else really delve into this, is your character's goal and their want and the way that they are tied together. And I think understanding the way that they are tied together is really important. She actually says, "It is not enough for us to create a story goal that is just a surface goal. To intertwine with the character arc, the goal needs to be an extension or reflection of something that matters to the character on a deeper level." And so she really talks about how they are, they both come from the character arc, but they also both drive the plot. And then talking about your character, she says, "He will invariably have to come to a point where he's willing to sacrifice what he wants in order to secure what he needs." And so you can see how important that is for your character arc. Another really useful thing that comes from this book that other people talk about, so in Save the Cat she calls it your flaw, in Story Genius she calls it your character's misbelief. In this, K.M. Weiland calls it the lie your character believes, and I think that specific phrasing is really useful. That specific phrasing was really useful to me as I was trying to figure out theme and stuff, and I actually use that phrasing still a lot. And the place I see it the most useful is when you talk about other character arcs, because then, like for example, when you're talking about a flat character arc, using misbelief or flaw, it's kind of hard to describe a flat character arc. But if you're using the lie your character believes, then you can say, well, they believe the truth while everyone else around them believes the lie, and it's really easy to explain what a flat character arc is. And so I think that specific phrasing is really useful. And then she has a section at the end where she goes more in depth on some of the things that are applicable to all the character arcs, no matter whether positive or negative, and answers some different questions that the reader might have. Some of these I found really useful, like here is where she talks about the impact character, which is the character that your main character meets who helps them to change. But some of the other information just wasn't quite as useful in that section, I felt, and maybe a little bit repetitive. Because it wasn't the first book that I read regarding story structure and things, I did find it a little bit repetitive. It does cover a lot of the same information as books like Save the Cat. For example, it talks about your character's ghost. In Save the Cat, she calls it your shard of glass. I know that Story Genius also talks about it, has a different name for that, I can't remember what she calls it. But so you're going to be, if you've read some of these other books and you decide to read this one, you're going to be finding some of the same information, maybe just with a different label. The main drawback to this book for me was just that I found it kind of boring. It was a little bit hard to get into and read through at times, or I found myself skimming at other times. Part of that could be because I had read some other books like Save the Cat, and so I did find some of the information wasn't new to me. And part of it could just be her writing style wasn't quite as engaging for me. She didn't use as many stories and things. She mostly just presented the information and then would give the examples, and then present the information, then give the examples. I also wish the examples had been sprinkled out throughout more, because there were times when she was saying things and I was like, this feels really abstract to me. I'm not sure what she's trying to say here, but the examples didn't come until the end of the chapter, and sometimes I didn't quite make the connection between the two. So those are the main drawbacks for me, but I did find it useful enough, especially regarding negative character arcs, which I knew very little about. And so I was able to learn quite a bit about the other character arcs and kind of beef up my knowledge of positive character arcs and really reinforce the plot and character arc intertwinement. I did find it very useful. It is one that I would recommend if you are interested in diving deeper into character arc, because she does go pretty deep into character arc and doesn't touch on a lot of other broader writing subjects. I would love to hear from you in the comments below what your favorite writing craft book is, or the most recent one that you've read. Let me know in the comments below so we can talk more about books and writing. And if you want to follow my reading journey, you can check out my Goodreads. I do post a review for every book I read there. And you can also check out my Instagram where I share my favorite books as well as more about my writing journey. If you like this video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe for lots of reading and writing content. And thank you so much for watching my video. I will see you in the next one.